Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a story that's really hit home for a lot of folks. It's about seeking justice, right? And it takes us straight into, well, the heart of the U.S. military.
Yeah, a system that, well, a lot of people might not know much about unless they've been a part of it.
Exactly. And this story, it's got layers. You might have heard of Vanessa Guillen.
Oh, yeah, her name, it really became synonymous with a lot of the problems, the issues that we're going to dig into.
So Vanessa was a 20-year-old soldier stationed at Fort Hood.
Hmm.
She was, from what I've read, totally dedicated to serving her country. But tragically, her life was cut short back in April 2020.
Yeah, murdered by a fellow soldier, which, I mean, that just adds another layer of complexity to this whole thing, right?
Absolutely, and that's why we're here. It's not just about a crime. It's about what this case revealed, about the culture within the military, about the fight for justice that her family had to go through. It's heavy stuff, but it's important.
And it raises questions, big questions, about accountability. Like, how do we protect the people who are putting their lives on the line for us?
Right, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
So let's start, I guess, at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who was Vanessa Guillen? I mean, she was young, just starting out in life.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years old, like you said, and she had dreams, big dreams. She wanted to be an army officer. You can just feel that energy, that ambition reading about her.
It makes you think, right? What's it like for these young people entering the military? It's a whole different world, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge transition. The discipline, the hierarchy. It's unlike anything else, really. There's a lot of pressure, and often there's this unspoken code of silence.
Which makes what happened to Vanessa even more heartbreaking. I mean, when she disappeared back in April 2020, her family ran into, like, wall after wall.
Yeah, the military's response, well, it wasn't great. I mean, it was slow, it lacked transparency, and they were just hitting bureaucratic roadblocks everywhere they turned.
Can you imagine? I mean, trying to find your daughter, and the very system that's supposed to protect her is, well, it's almost working against you.
And that, sadly, is not unique to this case. You see it again and again, these families battling not just the tragedy they're facing, but also the institution that, in theory, should be there to support them.
It's so frustrating. And then it took months before they finally found Vanessa's remains in June 2020. That wait, that agonizing wait for answers, it's almost too much to bear.
It really shows how much power these large institutions have and how families can get caught in the gears, so to speak.
But what struck me, even in the face of such immense grief, was the strength of Vanessa's family, her mother, Gloria, and her sister, Mayra. They didn't just sit back, they turned their pain into action.
Yeah, they became the face of this movement, right? Demanding justice for Vanessa, pushing for answers, for accountability.
And they were loud. They got people's attention. They took their fight to the media, to social media. It really shows the power of what grassroots movements.
Absolutely. When people come together, when they amplify their voices, they can force those in power to listen, to actually do something.
And as more attention was brought to the case, it wasn't just about Vanessa anymore. It started to uncover, well, a darker side to the military. We saw interviews with other service members, people who had experienced harassment but were too afraid to come forward.
Yeah, the stories were just heartbreaking. One woman, she shared how she'd been assaulted by her superior, and when she reported it, she was the one who got punished, labeled a troublemaker, threatened with discharge.
It's like, who do you turn to when the system itself is the problem?
Right. It's about power, isn't it? The power dynamics in the military, the hierarchy, the pressure to stay silent. It creates this environment where people are afraid to speak up, and that silence, well, it allows abuse to flourish.
And that's why Vanessa's case, it became such a turning point. It led to, among other things, the Am Vanessa Guillen Act.
Yeah.
This isn't just some small change. It's designed to overhaul how the military handles these types of cases.
It's about time, right? It's trying to dismantle that culture of silence. One of the biggest things it does is it creates an independent body to investigate these claims.
So it's not just reporting it up the chain of command where, potentially the people involved are the ones making the decisions.
Exactly. It's huge. And it also strengthens support for victims so they're not just left to deal with this trauma on their own.
That's so important. But I have to ask, within a system as massive as the military, How do you actually make sure this stuff gets implemented?
Right, that's the challenge, isn't it? It's one thing to write a law, but it's another to change the culture, the mindset. It takes commitment, from the top down. It takes training, education, and it takes empowering individuals to feel safe to speak up.
Yeah, to actually believe that something will be done. There's a documentary about Vanessa's story, and it's just so powerful. It uses personal stories, footage, and it really, I don't know, it just brings this tragedy to life.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, can a film, can it really create lasting change?
Well, documentaries, they can be powerful tools, right? They give a platform to the people who are often silenced. They challenge us, they educate us, and they can put pressure on those in power to do better. I mean, think about some of the documentaries that have come out in recent years about, criminal justice reform or about climate change. They've really sparked movements, led to real changes.
That's true, they have. So, wow, we've covered a lot here. We've talked about Vanessa Guillen, about her family's fight for justice, the systemic issues within the military, and the hope for change. But I keep coming back to this question. What's our responsibility in all this? We're not in the military. But as citizens, do we have a duty to hold institutions like this accountable?
I think we do. It's not enough to just be outraged by a story, by a tragedy. We have to demand transparency, we have to support those who speak out, and we have to keep pushing for change, for a system that actually protects the people who are serving our country.
It's easy to feel helpless, right? Like these problems are too big, too entrenched. But Vanessa's story shows us that change is possible. It starts with refusing to look away, with using our voices to demand better. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive. I hope it's left you with some things to think about, to talk about. This is a conversation we need to keep having.
Absolutely.
And remember, even in the face of tragedy, we can't give up hope. We have to keep fighting for a more just world. Thanks again for listening.